Temptation doesn't whisper to you, it stalks you. It watches your patterns, it studies your weaknesses, and it waits in the shadows for the moment your guard drops. Then it strikes, not with violence, but with comfort, not with fear, but with desire. It offers pleasure that feels harmless, but it's really poison dressed as promise. This enemy tells you, you deserve this. Just once. No one will ever know. And that's how this enemy hunts. He doesn't need to force you, only to invite you. And the moment you step toward his bait, the snare tightens. Temptation never comes waving a flag of war. It enters as an angel of light, promising peace while hiding the dagger underneath. It doesn't knock on the front door, it slips through the shadows, through the ad you shouldn't have clicked on, through the conversation that feels just a little too comfortable, or through the thought that lingers a little too long. The battlefield isn't out there, it's inside of you, between the man you want to be and the man your flesh desires to be. And here's the truth most men never face. The devil doesn't need to steal your life, just your focus. He doesn't need to break your covenant, only to distract you long enough for it to crumble around you. Temptation never announces its attack. It simply waits for silence, and then it whispers again. Temptation's not just a test of your morality, it's a test of your loyalty. Who commands your desires, your flesh or your king?
Each one is tempted when he's drawn away by his own desire, and when desire conceives, it gives birth to sin. James 1:14-15.
Every temptation begins as an invitation to compromise. But once you entertain it, the spark takes root, and destruction begins quietly beneath the surface. The devil doesn't come holding chains. He hands you comfort. He knows comfort kills conviction faster than fear ever could. So the question isn't, will you be tempted? The question is, when temptation comes, who will you obey? Temptation is a siege, and the enemy's goal is to find a crack in your gates. He's constantly testing for weaknesses in your defenses. He studies the areas you leave unguarded, which often look like your phone, your pride, or your isolation. The first glance, the first click, the first excuse. Those are the breaches. You think you're still in control, but you've already invited the enemy in.
Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down, without walls. Proverbs 25-28.
A man who stops guarding his heart has already surrendered his defenses. And once the wall is breached, the battle inside begins. When temptation enters, it doesn't take territory all at once. It advances inch by inch. These sneaky advancements look like that glance held too long, or a thought you left unchecked, or maybe a boundary left unguarded. That's how compromise grows, not in a single moment of weakness, but through 1,000 small surrenders of your heart, your judgment, and your holiness. You start hiding your phone, dodging questions, explaining away conviction as just stress. And before long, you've built a secret life deep in enemy territory. A life where your conscience is quiet, your fire for God has gone dim, and your walls are crumbling from the inside. Brother, no man drifts into holiness. Every step toward temptation is a step away from the presence of God. But this siege doesn't have to end in defeat, because while temptation hunts for weakness, grace builds strength and impenetrable defenses. God doesn't expect perfection. He expects surrender. He calls you to be a warrior who fights on his knees.
No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to man. But God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, and will make a way of escape. 1 Corinthians 10:13.
There's always a way out, but you have to take it while the door's still open. Run like Joseph ran from Potiphar's wife, not because you're weak, but because you know what you promised to protect. Your purity, your integrity, and your covenant. That's not cowardice. That's courage in action. That's how you turn temptation's ambush into God's victory. You can't escape temptation. It fuels the world around you. But you can build walls the enemy cannot breach. Here's your battle plan. First, recognize the trap early. If it looks harmless, it's probably bait. Second, expose it to the light. Temptation loses power when it's confessed. Third, guard your gates. Your eyes, ears, and heart are entry points. Protect them at all times. 4, run when you must. Retreat isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And finally, stand in accountability. A brother beside you is better than an army behind you. This enemy hunts in the shadows, so drag every temptation into the light. This week, don't just avoid temptation. Prepare a battle plan for it. Because the man who only reacts will always be defeated by the one who's ready to strike first. Start by exposing one shadow of weakness in your life. If there's a place you've been fighting alone, bring it into the light. Tell your wife. Tell a brother. Or set a digital armor in place with tools like Covenant Eyes. And then go a step further. Fortify your defenses. Choose one practice this week to guard your gates. Set a new boundary for your devices. Spend time in Scripture before you touch your phone. And use a resource that helps you fight smarter, not harder. Remember, the goal isn't perfection. It's progress under fire. Because every time you choose exposure over secrecy and obedience over comfort, you forge another layer of armor over your covenant. Brother, temptation isn't just after your purity. It's after your purpose. Because if the enemy can't destroy you, he'll distract you. And a distracted man becomes a defenseless one. This is the war within, the quiet siege no one else sees. But God has already armed you for this battle. You've got His Spirit, His Word, and His promise of escape. When that whisper comes again, stand your ground. Grip your sword. Guard your gates. And remember who you fight for. Not the comfort of the moment, but the covenant you vowed before God. Temptation only wins when you stop resisting. So hold the line, stand firm, and let the fire of His Spirit burn hotter than the lure of sin. Because this war was never about what the enemy wants to take from you. It's about what God is trying to forge within you. Forged in faith, bound by covenant. Let's get to work.